You're going.
Going.
Oh, you've been going this whole time?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so we're going now. Okay, hopefully it doesn't start squirting things everywhere. All right, here we go. We got this tight. You'll see that there are no air bubbles. Look at that. We got brakes. I'm going to clean them a little bit more, but we got brakes. That is a win. Good morning. It's been a couple of days since I finished up getting the fuel system taken care of. I had to move the fuel pump below the tank. They are gravity fed from the tank to the pump, and then they are pushed. The pump will then push it up, the fuel up over into the carburetor. I'll show you that in a little while. And then I finished wiring up for the fan. I'm going to do a little cleanup on that, but for now it's done. It works. It runs the way I want it to. And now I have to get it to stop. So this is the old brake cylinder. So this was originally made back in the 60s, and then I think they made it through into the 70s. And the problem is there's this plunger right here. It has a seal around it, and I could take it apart, and I may end up doing that later, but there's a seal around it, and every time I would push it in, I could pump it up and get pressure on the system. But then when I would let off the brake pedal, it would bubble and pop through, so that meant that seal was leaking. So this is old enough and hard enough to find parts for that I actually went ahead and purchased a brand new one. So this one does have a brake switch on the back. Not really sure why you need a brake light on this thing, but evidently at one point in time it did. I'm not putting that back on. This bar goes into this plunger. I don't know if you can see it right there or not, but it goes into that hole and actuates the plunger. So this bar is original equipment. It goes on the forklift. And then there are two outlets here, and here. This one is set up to run for the line to the brake master cylinder or Hydrovac. I'll explain that in a minute. And this was the brake switch. So today's modern brake systems in cars, they'll have this master cylinder sitting up on the firewall, and then you'll see a diaphragm or something up there. Well, that diaphragm is vacuum actuated most of the time, and it increases the leverage or the power that you can put on the brakes, and that gives you, your power brakes, and it makes them much easier. So these old forklifts and older vehicles had a separate system, and it's called a Hydrovac. Some were Hydrovac, some were called a Hydro Boost, but mine is a Hydrovac. And what happens is this line right here does not go directly to the brakes. This line goes down to the top of the Hydrovac system, and when I crawl underneath, I'll show that to you. But it goes down to the Hydrovac system and goes into the top. And what happens there is when the engine is running, it creates a vacuum, and as you create pressure from this cylinder down into the Hydrovac, there's a cylinder down there. It is vacuum assisted, and that vacuum helps you push the plunger, is what I'll call it. I'll try to get a video of it or a diagram. I think I can get one that pushes the plunger on the inside, and then opens valves up and actually power assist pushing brake fluid from the Hydrovac out to the line. So there's actually a single line, and then it tees and goes out to both wheels. So when you can't consistently build pressure with this because you've got a bad seal, what happens is I would pump this brake pedal up, and it would set, and I would get great braking on this. But as soon as I let go and I lost my pressure here and I got air, it would go all the way to the floor. The brake pedal would. Well, that wasn't the Hydrovac. I don't believe it is. That may still be bad, but I believe it's working from the way I've let it. So that's not the Hydrovac, that's this. And if this cylinder doesn't create pressure, it doesn't actuate, sorry, I can't say that, it does not actuate the Hydrovac braking system down below, which is the power assist. So fixing this should fix the brakes. So if for some reason the Hydrovac doesn't work, then there is a bypass down there in that plunger that you can actually manually brake these things. They're very difficult to brake because they're heavy. So you always have some sort of braking in this. But when I went to bleed the brakes before, and we would pump up the brake pedal and then push it and then open up the bleeder valve down below, it would literally just pressurize, shoot the fluid out, which tells me that the system is actually charging with the Hydrovac. So once again, we come back to this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump underneath and I'm going to put this in. It's going to get kind of tight, so I'm going to take the other camera and hopefully we can see it. I'm going to put this in. I'm going to hook this one line up here. Then we're going to fill it, bleed it, and we're going to see how the brakes work. So let's go ahead and get started with that, which means I'm going to turn this camera off. I'm going to get the other camera, I'm going to crawl underneath here, and we're going to get to work. So we'll see you underneath the truck. All right. Found the lock washers, or split washers. Once again, sorry about the camera angle. I really can't get to it any other way than put my hand in front of the camera. And I'll try it with the other hand here. So pretty basic stuff, just trying to get it hooked up. Oh, that's a dream. So the third one went in and it's almost completely lined up. And that was really my concern. So my concern was I wouldn't get all 3 bolts in because the pattern would be off a little bit. But it looks as though the pattern is the same. And that's a win. We'll get these tightened down. Put the pin in the other side. Line on. And we're doing pretty well. Oh, I think I just got it. I did. All right. That works. So that is started. Not too tight, but good and snug. All right, there we go. That is installed. Let's get the pin in. All right. So, we're finished on the bottom, but while I'm down here, I want to show you something. And let me see here. This is the transmission is up in this area here. And this lever right there. Oh, let me get my hand to it. That lever right there. That is called an inching valve. And that is actually pulled all the way forward. Actually, it's pushed all the way back. And the top of the lever is pushing in a plunger. And the inching valve, when it is now fully engaged, so it's this way. If I pull the bottom of this lever forward with a brake pedal, it will release that valve. Now, what happens with a forklift is when you release this valve, it bypasses the transmission pump that drives the vehicle, that drives, that engages the transmission. So by releasing that valve, I will release the transmission. And why is that important? Well, it's important, sorry about that. It's important because when you're trying to turn and brake and do things like that, this effectively acts as a clutch. So inching valve, think clutch, but it happens in sync with, in this particular application, it happens in sync with the braking. So as you're braking, you're opening the inching valve, and as you open the inching valve, you bypass the flow of the transmission fluid through the pump, and the brakes aren't fighting the transmission. So sorry about all the wiggly wobbly stuff, but that guy right there, that inching valve that you'll see right there, or that lever, is actually going to get hooked up to right up in here on the brakes. I've just got to figure out the mechanics of it. That will be a different video. All right, for now, let's get out from underneath here. For now, that's kind of comical. Let's get out from underneath here and go bleed the brakes and drive this thing. See you up on the top side. So the bottom side is finished. Now I need to put some brake fluid in the reservoir. I'm going to pump the brakes up, just kind of get it started, do some of the base, just get as much air as I can out from the top. And it should bubble back through the top a little bit. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to use a vacuum system. This one is by Built Tools. I bought it online. It's, they're all pretty much the same. But you run a vacuum through here. Then you run a hose. The hose is in the other hose is in the box, but it's got a little nipple on it, and it goes on the bleeder valve on the brakes. And you run a vacuum to it. This vacuum runs in here. This plugs in here, goes into the vacuum, and then you turn this upside down, and it will feed the brake cylinder so that you keep fluid in the system, and it bleeds it out. So I'll show you that as I go along. But for now, let's get some fluid in it, and let's get it ready for the basics. Okay, got a little bit of fluid in it. Let's see if she bubbles and pops, which I'm expecting it will. Yep. It is actually absolutely bubbling. Okay, I'm starting to get some pressure. There we go. Okay. Alright, let's see. Yes, that shows the opening. You'll see there's brake fluid in there. And when I press this now, it's actually pushing brake fluid back up. And so right now I would say I have all the air from the Hydrovac down below to the cylinder up here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fill this up. I'm going to cap it off, and then I'm going to check the brake pressure. So I think we're making progress. Moment of the truth, check the brake pedal. Okay, so I'm still getting a lot of I'm still getting softness in it, so I still have to bleed it out. I'm going to hook up the vacuum, put it on the wheel bleeder, pull the brakes in, crack it, and then bleed it and see if I can get all the air out of it. I'm not sure that I can, but I'm going to try. I did the best I could bleeding the brakes by myself. I went back and forth about 4 or 5 times, and it seemed to get a lot better, but I still have some work to do. Okay, we are under the forklift, and where I pointed to the top of the master cylinder before, that is, try to get in the light, that is right here. So that's the master cylinder. This line comes, which is down, it comes over, and then I don't know if you can see it, but it comes along here, and then it comes right here around, and it enters the Hydrovac right there. It looks like this line actually goes down and then back up. I don't know if you can see that. It looks like this line up here that comes down from the master cylinder, that it goes down, and then back over here it comes up, and then comes down into here. And then from this Hydrovac unit, when the pressure is applied, when the brake is applied, there's a piston in here, I don't know if you can see that drives this piston forward and then pushes fluid through here, up, and it comes up, and then this comes out over here to a T, and then this T goes to this brake line, brake cylinder here, and then there's a bleeder, I don't know if you can see it up there. So sorry about that, it's kind of shaky. And then from this side on the T, it comes over there, comes down, and you'll see it doesn't flow there. That actually comes up and then back down again, and then it goes up to the bleeder. So my theory, and I could be completely wrong here, so my theory in all of this is that somewhere in these dips I've got some air. That somewhere in some of these dips there's some air that's not being released, because when I press on the brake pedal and I up here, so I press on the brake pedal, it's soft, and then it goes hard, which tells me somewhere in this line in through here there's air. And I don't know that if I can get that straightened out, but what I am going to do is I'm going to move these lines around a little bit, try to get them so that there's no dips in them, and do the same with all the lines down here. And then once all the dips are out, as best I can get them out here, then I'm DIYing a power brake bleeder. So the one I used before was a vacuum, so it was pulling through. This time I'm going to pressurize the system, and I'm going to push brake fluid all the way through this whole system. And if that doesn't work, then there's an issue with the Hydrovac system, and that will be a whole nother level of research and work. I don't think they're that hard to take apart, but I'll probably just end up buying a new one. But I'm hoping that by making sure I have 100% of the air out of the line, that this will actually fix it this time. So with that said, I'm going to crawl out from underneath here. I'm going to take you in the trailer. Well, I'm going to fix the lines first, and I'm going to crawl out from underneath here, and I'm going to take you in the shop and show you how I'm going to make this power brake bleeder. So we'll see you in a few minutes. All right, get the air conditioner turned off here. Okay, so what I've got here, and I think I'll have less than $30 in this. So this is just a regular old bleach disinfectant sprayer. Hose comes in here. This hose goes out. Put fluid in it. You pump it up. It pressurizes it. Easy enough. So what I'm going to do is, and I've got a valve for it. I've actually got this valve here, brass valve, and then I've got a shark bite valve here. So I may end up just cutting this off. I'm not sure yet. We're going into this hose here, but this is the old brake cylinder, master cylinder that I replaced, and it has a cap that fits on the new one. So what I did was I knocked the top of it off. There was a little plate under here, and then I drilled in and tapped this. It's see if you can see this here. So there was a plate down in there that was maybe 1/8 of an inch thick, and I drilled that and tapped it for the MPT threads. Got this settled, you know, this barb fitting down in there, and then I took some JB Weld and filled it in, so this will be airtight, and it will go and it will work. So what I'm going to do is, the master cylinder out there is, I'll screw this in, tighten this down. The hose will come from here down to there, pressurize the system, and this is 1 gallon, and I have a gallon of brake fluid, .3, because this is an old unit. And you'll see these 2 containers sitting here. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify these hoses. This is a nipple that goes onto the bleeder on the wheel valve, and I've got another one right here. So I'm going to take some of this hose here to make this connection, but also to go from the bleeder valve in the wheel cylinder. I'm going to bring this up, and it's going to come into here where this will have fluid in it, so there's no possible way to pull air back in. And so I'm going to take it out here again. So what I'm going to end up doing is the highest spot will be right in this area along this beam. So the pressurized thing will sit there. The cap will go down on that, and then on each side, the absolute highest point by a very, very long shot will be these places here. The 2 catch basins, which I got for like $2.99 at the discount aisle. The pink, gotta love the pink. I will just run the tubes down inside there. This will breathe right there through that. It'll be heavy enough. It's not going to tip over. I may throw a couple of real heavy bolts or something in it, or a couple of pieces of metal in it to weight the bottom down. But all said, all added up, I'll probably have about an hour in this, and maybe $30, $20, and I should have a unit that works really well. And if I wanted to get really fancy, all I would do is just drill the side of this. Drill the side of this, put in an air valve, a nipple, and then just attach onto that. But I think for right now, I think this will work just fine. So hopefully I can get all the air out of this and we should be in pretty good shape. Otherwise, I'm going to have to replumb the lines, reflare the lines, do all of that, drill some holes, and I really don't want to do that. So let's see what we can get done. All right, I'm going to put the camera down and get started. All right, let's try to get this connection made here. I don't know if I can get this sprayer to work or not, but we're going to see. Alright, back with parts. Now, there are a lot of parts in here that are for the inching valve, but for right now, I'm just going to focus on the brakes. Looks like we're going to get a little rain. Come on. I'm going to have to put my glasses on. Okay, that is down. You can see it over there in the distance above the trailer. It's some. I don't know that we needed rain. We had a lot of rain this year, but hey, not a good thing. So. Back we go, back to work. So what I'm going to do, I don't know if you can see this, I'm going to put a little dab of silicone around here. A little dab of silicone around there and then tighten this down so that I have this sealed in the way I want it. So a little bit of ultra black gasket maker. I have no idea how loud that is. I'm guessing somewhat. Hopefully it's not too annoying. Alright, so I've got that down. That's all in place. I'm now going to come down and go to this tube. Oh, I had it in my hand a minute ago. Ah. With this junction, I'm going to go to here, into the valve, onto that, and we're done. Well, done with the top part. Right now I wish it wasn't raining. I'd like to go out and check my height on this. But I think that's about right. I'm gonna go check it real quick. Be right back. Okay. This into this. We're wide open. I'm gonna close this, put a little air in it. Let's see. Oh yeah, we have pressure. Let's go pink here. This should be fairly simple. Ah. Three bolts. They work perfectly. Okay, 61 centimeter. All right. Yeah, no, that's what we're doing. I don't need that. A quick tight fit there. Give a little bit of heat, let go. See, I don't know heat. Some bolts down top of it. There we go. Now one bolt. I'm going to cut it off a little bit. Cut this one off a little bit too. And this one's going to get looser. This one is much perfect. So now we're ready to go. And I'm going to give this a little time to dry. And wrap the rest. Yeah, we're going to gas it so whenever you do it. I let this sit for about an hour, hour and a half. And I pretty much knew it was not going to seal the way I wanted it to. So I came out, pulled this apart because it's still leaking up in here, and I'm going to make some changes. Basically it's going to force me to go into tomorrow to get this done, but I'm going to take some of this quick setting steel reinforced epoxy JB Weld. I'm going to mix some of that up. I'm going to push this down in with some JB Weld on it, and that'll get it to set up the way I want it. Let it set overnight, and then with the cap on it. Doing that should seal this up. If not, I'll throw this one out and I'll start it again with something else. But I'm pretty sure that this will seal everything up the way I want it to. So let's get some mixed up and get started. Alright, there we go. We are pretty much ready to get started tomorrow. So with that, we'll see you tomorrow.
A few moments later.
Alright, I'm back. I just can't help myself. I figure if this is going to work well and seal it up, then why not put an air nozzle on this side, and then we can just run air pressure in it, and I don't have to worry about pumping it up. So that's what I'm going to do. This may set me back a couple of days if this doesn't work, but if it does, it'll be great. And it'll be great because I won't have to what the hell do I want to say? I won't have to pump this up. I'll just be able to run it. This is an MPT tap. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to drill a hole for a quarter. This is a 1/4 inch MPT. And for this, you need to drill a 7/16 inch hole. So Go over there. Take this. Get it tight. It's not going away. You can touch us. Get off there. Main surface for your chuck. Okay. Now I'm really done for the night. And of course, what I could have done over here was actually put an air chuck over here, just drilled this out, but either way, doesn't matter. I'm gonna let this sit. And it's sealed up really well. Should not blow out. Famous last words. But now I am gonna let this go till tomorrow. So we'll see you tomorrow, and hopefully it all works out. We can get the air out of the system. You're going.
Going.
Oh, you've been going this whole time? Okay, so we're going now. Okay, first of all, I'm going to say thank you. I've got a buddy helping me out today, so the camera will be moving for once. But today, we're going to talk about what I built, what I've used to bleed the brakes on the forklift. Now, in yesterday's video, and this I may do all this as one video, I'm not sure, but when I was videoing yesterday, I talked about that we go from the master cylinder, which is this, that the brake pedal actuates, and we have one line coming out that goes down to the Hydrovac unit. And the Hydrovac unit, what I said yesterday, and just to recap, is that line from this goes down underneath a C channel, a C beam, comes up and then back up on the lip and then back down to the Hydrovac. So there's a high spot and it's got air in it. Every time we pump the brakes, pump it a couple of times and it goes hard, so it's compressing the air. But as soon as we let go, because we in essence have a high spot like this, so we're going from the master cylinder down to a high spot and back down to the Hydrovac. So we're compressing the air in this area going from, say, here to here. When we let go of the brake, it uncompresses and it pushes fluid back into that. So we know that we've got an air pocket here, but there is also a high spot from the Hydrovac brake, from the Hydrovac unit that goes out to the cylinder. So I believe we have two air pockets we have to deal with. So what I have done in the past, before I realized I had air pockets, is I used a vacuum system. So this is from Built Tools, and it's actually a really nice unit. You turn this upside down in the master cylinder, it keeps it running. You take this, and I don't know where I've got the hoses now, they're somewhere around here, but you plug the hose in and you hook it onto the bleeder valve for the master cylinder, and it creates a suction. The problem that I had with this, one, is every time you crack the bleeder valve, you create a gap to pull air in. So you always have a little bit of air pulling back through these systems, and they work just fine. But in my case, I needed to pull a lot of fluid. I need to push that air, the little air bubble, so to speak, all the way through the system, and the only way I was going to do that is to pressurize it. So as we talked about when I was filming yesterday, and this could be all-in-one YouTube video, but I want to make sure I cover this in case I separate it, is that this is a pressure valve. So what I did, this is just a weed sprayer. I created a little valve here. This actually screws on to the top. This will pressurize, and as soon as I open this valve up, then we're going to pressurize the system. So now these will go on the bleeder valves. Everything will be setting up so that the bleeder is down low. This will set above the system like this, so that once we get fluid in the system, once we get brake fluid in the system, it will be impossible for it to pull air back into the system. So we should be able to get all the air out of it. Now I say should be only because this Hydrovac system may block me from getting the air from the master cylinder out. And so I may have to go in and replumb it. But that's what we're going to do today. I was originally going to just grab this and pump on it. And I thought, well, I've got an air compressor, so I'll put a valve in it. So the first thing I want to do is test this and make sure it doesn't leak. I've got my compressor set to about 12 to 15 psi, so it's not a big psi. Let's go ahead and plug this in. I don't know if you can hear that. Okay, but it is now pressurized. It's actually leaking a little bit through the cylinder here. But now, if I take this and open it up, I now have air flowing through this. So, once again, I get the air pressure up. I think I've got my air pressure turned down too low. But now I've got air pressure flowing through it. So that will positively pressurize the brake system. With that said, let's turn this off for now. Let's get outside and let's see if it works. Okay, I don't know if you can see this down here, but this is the top. This is the nut that goes onto the master cylinder, and we're going to take that off. So this is the nut. This is the replacement that goes in its place. So I'm just going to set that right there. This isn't really designed to turn, but I'm going to do it anyways. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to set it on here. Actually, this is not going to go. I don't know how well you can see this, but this now you can see we're tightening this down. I'm hoping this holds its pressure. I'm going to snug this down just a bit. To try to keep this from blowing back through. Okay, so that is pretty snug. Don't really like that. So I want to make sure we don't have any low spots in this. Alright, so now we don't have any low spots. So I'm going to pull this valve's off. I'm going to put some air pressure to this. We're going to pressurize the system. Okay. And it's normal to see some, you'll see the fluid. I don't know if you can see this. Can you focus in on this, Tom?
Mm-hmm.
Can you see the fluid rising up?
Oh, yes.
So it is actually taking some of the air out. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to crack this valve a little bit for just a second. Okay. And what it just did there was it just transferred. You see this air bubble coming up? So what we're doing is we're getting all the air out of the system. I'm going to tighten this down just a touch more. Okay. Make sure I'm not leaking down below. So I did not have this cap tightened down enough. It was leaking back out through it just a little bit. We've got this tight. You'll see that there are no air bubbles in this at all. So what we're going to do now is we're going to turn the camera off, reset, and then both of us are going to crack the valves at the same time, and you'll see the air coming up through these. So give us just a minute and we'll get these set up. We'll be right back. All right, so we have the system closed off here. We bled the air into the master cylinder. We bled that part of the air out. My buddy's going to help me. He's going to crack that cylinder, and we've got filming going on that's the passenger side. Not that there's a passenger in a forklift. I guess there could be.
No seat.
And then I'm on the driver's side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the air pressure in it, and then we're going to crack both bleeder valves at the same time, and we're going to see what happens. Hopefully it doesn't blow up. Well, blow up. 15 psi. Hopefully it doesn't start squirting things everywhere. All right, here we go. All right, so I just opened the bleeder valve, and I can tell it's still leaking a little bit. Let me crack this down tight. Sorry, I thought I had this thing tightened down enough. Okay, we're getting a little blow through around the valve here, but that's fine. Let's go ahead and crack the lines and let's see what happens. So, all right, Tom.
Okay.
I don't know if I can get to mine like this. All right, let's go.
Ready?
Set, go. Okay. On mine, you can see there is a whole bunch of air coming up through here.
Yeah, same over here.
All sorts of air coming up. So we're blowing a lot of air, and we're also getting air that's coming down into the system.
Fluid's coming up.
Okay. So you're still getting air on your side as well. Look at that big air bubble on the top.
Right.
Go ahead and step back from it. You can look at that big air bubble that's coming across the top. Is it still open?
Yeah, it closed a little bit from the weight of the
Okay,
wrench.
go ahead and pull it back open then. So this thing, once again, it is pushing air down through.
Okay, air is gone.
Air's gone. All right, I've still got a little bit of air coming through mine. I'm going to go turn the air pressure up on the tank just a little bit. So let's make sure we got the very last going. All right, it's running at 20 psi. So I'm not going to raise it up anymore. That's more than enough. But we have no air coming through the system now. Hardly at all. I think there's a bubble or two that are kind of coming. Are you getting any air over there at all?
Nothing more coming out.
Okay, let's go ahead and close our bleeder valves. Okay, mine's closed.
Okay, and closed.
And I just blew mine off. So I'm losing all of, I just blew mine off the bleeder valve. Okay, so now theoretically we should have gotten all the air out of the system, and I have a tight brake pedal. All right, I'm going to shut that off so there's no more pressure going in. I have a tight brake pedal. I think it worked. Okay, I'm going to unpressurize this. Let's take this off. In future versions, I would put a swivel on here so that I could get this off easier. Now the test. Do I have a brake pedal? Okay, so it's better, but I don't think we got everything out. So I'm going to cycle it a couple of times. We're going to put it back on. We're going to run it again. So we just bled the brakes. We got a ton of air out of the lines, but it's still mushy. So the theory continues to be that there's a high spot from the master cylinder down to the Hydrovac. So I'm going to crawl underneath and try to adjust the lines. And if I can get it right, we should see some bubbling come up through the master cylinder. We've got the top of it off. So I'm going to crawl underneath. It'll take me a second to get under there. And I'm going to move things around. and hopefully we'll see bubbles. If we do, then we may very well have this thing whipped. All right, I checked the fittings, tightened them up a little bit more, tried to get the line out, as you heard earlier, the low part out of the line. We're going to bleed the system again. We have pressure in it, and we're going to bleed it again and see if we get more air. I know I'm going to get air on my side because the bleeder came off the bleeder nipple, so mine's empty. I will get air initially, but then do I get air after that? And on the other side, do we get air? So let's check this. All right, are you ready?
Ready.
All right, let's open it up. Nope. Mine popped off and it's actually bleeding out onto the ground. I think it's going to stay on now. Okay, are you getting any air out of yours?
No.
Okay.
There's a little bubble.
Okay. Any bubbles are a good thing. I'm just going to keep pumping this. This may be getting into the Hydrovac. Oh yeah, look. I'm getting air on your side. Look at the air.
Well, that was some residual in the downside of the tube.
Okay.
Dude, we're gonna get rain.
Yeah. It does appear that way. But it looks like we're now getting some cloudy stuff in
I
there.
was gonna say, it's not as clear as it was.
Yeah,
So you're flushing something out.
yeah, it does look that way, doesn't it? Let's keep running. Let me make sure this valve is... Yep, I'm still open over here. And I think I may have an issue with my valve. Oh, I'm getting some air bubbles now.
There you are.
I'm getting air bubbles on my side. I don't know if this is the right way to bleed it or not. What the hell? If it works, who cares? Oh yeah, it's actually starting to firm up pretty well here. Look at the air bubbles coming out of my side. Yeah, check that out. Is it staying on the bleeder down there? Oh, it just popped off.
Popped off.
Okay, yeah, don't move. The good news is it is pushing fluid out when it comes off, so it is working. All right, let me go through again. I don't think I'm getting much flow through mine.
Kind of running low on your main jug.
Well, we got a couple of, about that far, Tom.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, that is...
Why don't I step up there and pump it with my feet?
Hold on a minute. All right, I'm going to let it just kind of slowly cycle for a minute. And we're going to let whatever air is there kind of settle back. And then I'm going to go through it again. But I'll tell you what, we were not getting cloudy fluid before. And we're getting cloudy fluid now. Quite a bit. So, The reason I say it makes sense is that there is a bypass. And in fact, I'm going to start this now. And we're going to run the vacuum system. So this is going to get noisy for a second. Look at it now. So we know the vacuum's working. We're pushing air, aren't we? Look at the stuff coming out there.
Right. So it's this one that had more air.
Okay, I shut it off. Oh, we've still got a little bit more to go. We've still got a little bit more. Do I have more fluid inside? Did you see all the crap in the air that came out of this side? Okay, it's getting ready to rain. We're gonna leave the camera rolling. We're gonna reload this and we're gonna hit it again hard and see what happens. So we're gonna close the valve. That's sealed. We're gonna pull that off. We're going to put some fluid in this. Trying to do this real quick before it gets too dark and it rains on us. Can you get to that, Tom? Okay. All right. We may have to stop and empty out our jugs here. Okay. So we got that. Get the top on. And I have no idea if the camera is, if it's too low light or not. Okay. We're pressurized again. Alright, pressure's back on the tank. Let's hope this gets it. Oh yeah, we're getting a bunch of crap out, aren't we? So we weren't getting in. Getting air?
Yeah. Clearing up.
What's that?
Clearing up.
Okay. I shut it off for just a minute. I'm going to leave it pressurized.
So you're getting a lot more fluid over there than I am here.
Right. Okay. And I think this side just opened up. This is the beauty of this, Tom.
Oh, right. Dump it in.
Will you do me a favor? Tilt this up. It should be right there. Just pour a bunch in. That's good. Yeah, that's good. Let's go over here. And the valve on your side is open, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
May not be open as much as yours. That's where you get anymore.
I just want to make sure we don't end up getting air. There we go. That's funny. Set this off to the side. Check your bleeder valve. Let's make sure it's open. All right, systems open. Let's one more time. Let's just make sure yours is open. Oh yeah, lots of air. Okay, let's close the bleeder valves. Okay. So we have a full, can't see it because it's pretty much dark, but we have a full master cylinder. And now I'm going to jump in here. And see if I can get this thing to pressure up like we want it to. Alright, this will be the $500, $800 question. Almost answered, because that's what it's going to cost me to redo that. So, brakes feel better. Okay. Let it sit. You still filming here? Oh yeah, we have brakes. We have brakes. Yes, yes, yes. Look at that. We got brakes. I'm gonna bleed it a little bit more, but we got brakes. That is a win. Thank you. This to that bar which goes to the brake. So you see when I